Hi, this is Hank Taylor. Welcome to our Grow webinar. Today we have Rob Nelson, CEO of Grow, talking about what he wants from us for Christmas and a whole bunch of great things. Just a couple things. This is live. If you're watching on Tuesday, December 13th at 11, there will be a live Q&A. You can submit questions through your interface there, and I'll try and get Rob to answer those and restate those as quickly as possible once you submit them. And then we'll have a whole section for it at the end. But without further ado, here's Rob. Thank you, Rob.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I was giving Hank crap about this webinar software when we first went live with it, but the last one I joined, I was 30,000 feet on an airplane, and there was nothing to install, and it was a beautiful experience. So I hope the experience is great for you today. The topic is the CEO holiday wish list. This is what a CEO would like, and as I thought about this for myself, it came down to predictable revenue growth. That's it for me. I want predictable revenue growth this upcoming year. And this past year in 2016, we'll end the year with, maybe between 11 and 12 times our revenue from the year before. So we've grown 11x this year, and so it's been a good year. This next year, we're planning on 3xing our revenue, but I want to know, are we going to hit that along the way? And is there something that I can measure that by, so that I know if we're going to be successful month to month, week to week, and if we're going to be on track. As I also gave thought to, what do I wish I had as the CEO of my last company? And it came down to this one report. So I want to focus this webinar on a sales funnel and having a really good sales funnel report. So I want to walk you through what we look at and how we look at it. And I guarantee you that had I had this report, and if I were to look at this as the CEO of my last company, we would have doubled the revenue. We would have grown at least twice as fast. Real quick, I want to start with a story. David Lee Roth, this is one of my favorite stories. He was lead singer of Van Halen. He toured with them in the early to mid 80s, and at that time, it was the largest touring show in the world. All of the venues up to this point could handle a max of maybe 2 or 3 truckloads of equipment. They showed up with 9 truckloads of equipment, lighting, effects, everything. And so these venues couldn't hold all of the equipment that they had. So to help in executing these big productions and shows, they had really thick, complex contract writers. And it talked about amperage, and it talked about voltage, and all of the specs. What David Lee Roth did is he put in this Article 126, and this is what it said in their contract writers. It said there will be no brown M&Ms in the backstage area. Otherwise, they could get a full refund on the show without any retribution. So anyway, this is what labeled Van Halen as these rock divas and gave them a bad reputation. And David Lee Roth, this was his quick guide when he showed up to a venue and he looked for the bowl of M&Ms. And if there were brown M&Ms, that he knew they didn't go through the contract writer in detail. And so they had to do a full sound check. They had to do a full lighting check. And it took hours and hours to do that. So this was his quick guide of, is everything going to plan? And in a way, that's what I want to walk you through today, which is, are we going to hit our revenue growth goals by this one report, this sales funnel? So again, I'm going to show you what we measure at Grow internally, how we measure it, and what do we do with it? So there's been some really unique insights that we've gotten out from watching this report. And as a CEO, this is what I watch most carefully to measure the success and the health of the sales team and department. So first off, I'm going to show you what this looks like in our actual application. So at Grow, we do business intelligence software, and we make it easier than everybody else to pull in their data and get real-time insights into what's happening. So this is our own sales funnel. I created kind of an empty board. You can see that here. And I'll walk you through how I built this and how I look at it. Let me expand this into a larger view here. And then I'm just going to unselect some of these views and walk you through building a sales funnel. So what I have left is I've got inbound leads, and sometimes there is a little bit of a delay on this webinar. But so I've got inbound leads, and I'm first looking at number of leads coming in week over week. And you can see this is our actual account. We're averaging about 600 leads a week that come in. Now, over here, we've got a feature that I can see this on a day level or a week level, a month level, or quarter level, quarter view. And I like seeing this week over week. And here's my opinion on this. We have a short sales cycle, 7 to 10 days. If your sales cycle is longer than maybe 45 days, then I would look at this month over month. But I like looking at it day over day is just too granular for me. I don't get what I really want out of it. So week over week is kind of a great view for me. So it starts with, hey, where do our sales come from? Where do they originate from? And for us, it's leads. Any company that has a sales team, you're going to want to start with that. If you don't have a sales team, like your e-commerce or maybe it's a self-serve SaaS product, you may want to start with what is the foundation, where's the starting point of where our sales come from, and that's going to be website visits, for example. But if you have a sales team, like us, we start with inbound leads. Now, the other question I get asked is, hey, what's the right ratio between our inside sales reps, how many inbound leads do we feed them versus the outbound efforts that they put forth to mine their own leads? The company that purchased my last company had a philosophy that they wanted all reps to do the outbound work, and that sales reps were lazy if they weren't doing the outbound work. I have an opposite perspective. I want our sales reps to scrub in like a doctor and come right in to do demoing, needs assessment, and closing deals, and that's it. I don't want our sales team focused on prospecting efforts and scouring LinkedIn, and so that's typically where you have another specialized team like a ADR team or an SDR team. There's a couple of acronyms for them. So this counts all of our inbound leads, and then it counts any outbound effort that we do that the prospect then replies and says, yes, I am interested. Thanks for reaching out. That's the view that I look at. Now, the next thing I do is we layer in the demos set on top of that, and then I look at demos given and the opportunities created from that, and eventually deals closed. So I'm walking through the whole flow or the whole process of our sales funnel and layering that on top of each other week over week. Now, I'm going to jump back into the deck and show you some insights that we've had from this. So again, inbound leads, and if I look at our demos scheduled from our inbound leads, I get an overall conversion rate. This is our actual conversion rate. From inbound leads, we're converting 26% to some kind of demo. I think relative in the SaaS industry, this is a strong number. This is a good number. There was a 3-week period there in August that our leads dropped by 30%. And marketing said, hey, we've been focusing on improving quality and not so much quantity, and our lead qualities increased. And when you look at that, actually leads didn't drop 30%. Our conversion rate from demos scheduled to leads dropped 30%. So it had nothing to do with lead quality improving. Lead quality went down actually based on those numbers. So we said, okay, go back to what you were doing before because it has no effect. That's a real life example of looking at this report and monitoring week over week the changes that we made to improve. So that's one example. The next thing that I look at is I look at demos scheduled versus demos given. And now I look at the ratio. So we're converting 75% of those that scheduled an appointment to those that follow through with the appointment. And again, we had a 3-week period where it really dropped, and we said, okay, we need to fix this. What happened here? Starting that week in July, we put in some, we improved our follow-up sequencing in those leads that came in that scheduled demos, and our conversion rate went up 55% just by doing some follow-up on those demos after they were scheduled. So it was a quick change. It was coming back to the David Lee Roth story. I mean, it's a quick change that we made and that had, dramatic results, and that's what I love about this. Okay, the next thing we look at is after the demos that we give, how many of those convert into real sales opportunities? And we're at a 52% conversion rate. One of the things that we did was we had all of our inbound leads go to appointment setters that qualified and scheduled demos. That makes total sense, doesn't it? I mean, that's common sense that we would have a separate team that specialized in doing that versus giving it back to the sales reps and having the sales reps try and schedule those. But when we did that for that 6-week, 7-week period, our conversion rates dropped 32%. We said, okay, that specialized team is adding friction in the process. Let's go back to having all inbound leads go directly to the sales rep, and performance improved. And there was another lesson that we learned and another quick win. And again, I'm speaking to specifics of Grow and what we're seeing in our own business. Your sales funnel may look different, but the principles and the concepts are the same, is that you layer in week over week or month over month that flow of when somebody is interested or comes to your site or raises their hand to when they purchase, and break those steps up and layer it on top of each other, and then you can make small changes that will have a big impact. Okay, so of our opportunities created in our CRM, how many do we close? And we're at a 32%, we're closing a third of those deals. So here is our overall sales conversion numbers. Sometimes it's just helpful to get a benchmark, and I wanted to share a few things like that. So sales conversion numbers, 26% from leads to demos, 75% from demos that are scheduled to demos that are actually given, and half of those convert into sales opportunities, and we're closing a third of those sales opportunities. Our overall lead to close ratio is 3.8%, which I think we feel good about here. I mean, as we've just asked around and have gotten some benchmark numbers from other SaaS, B2B SaaS companies, it ends up being like 1.8% from what we've heard. Now, I guess that all depends on how strong the marketing department is generating those inbound leads. But that's just a benchmark. The other thing I wanted to share that's helpful is the technology stack. It's nice to know what other companies, what other tools and applications do they use in order to improve their sales process. So here is our tech stack on the sales side. One is we run everything on Salesforce. We use an application called Distribution Engine. Distribution Engine is a great little bolt-on to Salesforce that allows us to throttle up leads and distribute those by sales reps. So if you have a top sales rep, wouldn't you want them to have more leads than somebody else in the bottom 10%? Of course you would. So you can throttle that up. If a sales rep goes on vacation for a week, I want the leads turned off for that rep so that they don't go stale and they get distributed out to other people. Distribution Engine helps us do that. Clearbit is a good tool so that when a lead comes in, it mines like that email address and pulls information from the company that they're at to tell us, hey, this is the industry, this is the number of employees that they have, this is a description of the company and some other pieces of data that's really helpful for us in understanding that prospect. We use Outreach for some cold outreach and email follow-ups that we have as well. We use ZoomInfo, Calendly for scheduling demos, and Proposable for sending out proposals and agreements to customers. So one of my favorite parts and where I think a lot of value is in an open Q&A. So we're going to turn it over to the audience here, and feel free to chat in your questions like Hank said, and we'll go through these together.
Yeah, so those will take a few seconds to come in. We'll also be sending out this is live now, but we'll be sending out the recording to those who attended and those who didn't.
Coming back to the question of what's the right ratio? I mean, in a perfect world, all of our sales reps would have 100% of their deals get fed to them by inbound leads. Is that possible? And in real world situation, what's the right ratio? I've heard of companies say, hey, I want a 50-50 ratio of inbound leads to sales reps. Right now, I think that we're probably at 70%, maybe 80% of those deals coming from inbound leads versus cold prospecting. That gives you a good benchmark. Okay, so one of the questions that came in is, what CRM does Grow use? That was Salesforce that we're on. I've tried a couple of other platforms, and there's always a love-hate relationship with Salesforce, but it is phenomenal. And when it gets really good is when you have someone that has some sales operations experience that has gone in and customized some things from Salesforce. One thing that we love about it is the ability to pull any field in Salesforce out through the Grow application. And so you can get some really good insights. So for example, that report that I showed you is live. I built that report. It took a few minutes to build and layer in all of these different stages of the sales cycle from Salesforce. And then I set a timer in Grow to have that update every, I think it's 10 minutes. So it's going out to Salesforce, pinging the latest data and updating that. So I've got that report in real time, which is what I want to see. Okay, the next question is, can you take around labor costs at all? Can you talk around labor costs at all? How do you track the cost? Do you track the cost it takes to acquire a lead, an opportunity, an order, etc.? Great. That's a great question. So labor costs, in order to do that, we haven't looked at that yet. I mean, we've got, and it really depends on the sales cycle. For us, it hasn't been a big issue because our sales cycle is so short. So We have a 7 to 10 day sales cycle, and if your sales cycle is longer than maybe 45 days, I think it's probably worth looking at to have the labor costs involved. And one of the things that you can do if you're on Salesforce and want to track that is being able to pull in, record all of the sales activity, calls, emails, demos, in-person visits, and maybe apply points or hours to each one and sum that up so that you have a number of hours to close an overall account, and then eventually break that down into the sales cycle. But at our sales cycle time being as short as it is, it's just not a priority for me. Great question though. Next question. How is Grow better than Microsoft BI? That's a good question. Microsoft has a product called Power BI. So Power BI is a strong product. It's a strong product. I think one of the things that makes us different is having played around with it. I think Grow personally is a lot easier to use. The other thing that is a big value prop for clients that we hear is that we have unlimited technical support. So BI in general and is complex. It can get complex in like, I'm trying to build this report. How do I layer this on top of each other, or how do I transform the data to get to the stage of visualization? And Power BI you're on your own with, or you can reach out and hire a consultant for, and Grow provides all the support, the unlimited support for free for that. And that's what makes a lot of our customers successful in BI. They say that 80% of BI projects fail, and they fail due to complexity. And they just get so complex that everybody goes back to spreadsheets with what they're comfortable with. And that's what you want to avoid. And that's our whole value prop, is helping it. You keep things really simple so that you can build this sales funnel report in a matter of a few minutes and keep it up to date. The next question is, how would I approach reporting for e-commerce? I'd look at different stages of the buying cycle in e-commerce, and whether it starts with website visitors, that's probably common, and then work your way down to a purchase on the site. And I'd break up those sections, whether it's shopping cart, items added. You can look at cart abandonment rates, and so you want to measure, at the starting point. So I overall I'd look at like a high level version of that first, and then I'd break it into like, okay, what sources are coming in to hit our traffic, whether it's PR, whether it's AdWords or Facebook ads, or these different sources, to start tracking conversion rates based on the lead, the lead stage, or the acquisition source. So that's how we see a lot of customers do it that are in that space. Next question is, what is a report that you now think is useless? That is a good question. I would say that one of the things that's not useless, but that we're putting less emphasis on, is our customer acquisition cost. That is, how much does it cost us to acquire a customer? You hear that question get asked on Shark Tank all the time. So we measure that. We measure that in Grow. That's a report that we built. Took us a few minutes, and it's going out to QuickBooks and pulling our marketing and sales expenses, going out to QuickBooks and pulling number of new customers month over month and doing a calculation. And we've read some articles lately that said when you're in hyper growth mode, it just doesn't matter as much. It's not a core metric. It's still on one of the dashboards that is my core dashboard, but I put less emphasis on it than I did earlier, just because of the rate that we're growing. As long as it's within a range, it's okay. But there's a lot of other, that's still an important metric. It's just not as important as it was. There's still other metrics. I mean, social media activity can be one of those vanity metrics. What is the second best report you'd use? The one that I look at we have for a SaaS company, we have the whole company rally around MRR, and we look at MRR growth, and we're transparent within the company about that metric. But what's more important to me, MRR can be a vanity metric. I look at collected revenue. That affects cash flow, that affects our burn rate, and if we're going to survive. And one of my most important jobs as CEO is don't run out of cash. So that's probably one of the most important reports I look at.
So I think we're starting to get some specific questions. Like we have one about SQL and Sage. And Rob, you could answer that real quick, but we can send you guys, if you guys reply to the email sending you the recording, I can set you up with the person who can answer any specific technical questions about Grow. But yeah, we still have another couple questions.
Yeah, so we have a SQL database on our premises. Server running Sage can Grow, give us dashboards for various metrics from Sage. We can, as long as we're able to connect to the SQL database behind Sage, we can pull that data in, and then you can build queries off that and set a timer to update that data in Grow so that it's always up to date. So that's something that is very doable. There's next question about SharePoint and API, and that may be a little more technical for me and better suited to our product team. I'll funnel that question to the product team to get a date on and time frame around building an API for SharePoint to get some of that data, but that's a good question. Well, look, we appreciate you joining today. We hope this has been helpful. And again, it's predictable revenue growth is my number one Christmas wish list for this upcoming year. I think we will get it because of the report that we look at internally and how we measure the company off of data and look at that. If we can help you in becoming more data-driven and in the business intelligence space, please let us know. We're happy to answer any questions that you have.
Excellent.